Welcome back to another episode of Unsecurity. This week we're joined by our lead research and developer at FRSecure, Seth Bowling. Welcome, Seth.
Hey, thanks, Brad and Megan. Appreciate being here.
Glad to have you on today to talk a little bit about kind of cities, county governments' impact based on some of the work you've been doing at our sister company, Mirrored Defense, putting that tool together, working with Evan as a follow-up. Some people might have been familiar with his heat map of counties at risk, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess don't want to bury the lead here, but we are working on version 2 of that heat map. So about 3 years ago, Evan had the lofty goal of mapping out the attack surface of the United States for counties, right? County governments, city governments, that sort of thing. We're working on version 2 of that right now. We've completed the data collection for that and planning on releasing that at Hacks and Hops. So if you're coming, come see us.
Awesome.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a good event this year. What kind of information are you using to put the map together?
So high level, we're looking at vulnerabilities, endpoints that are detected on systems with HTTP, HTTPS. So the reason for that is, we're looking to see just kind of the overall profile and how large someone's attack surface may be, and looking in those endpoints like, anything that may be forgotten about, like a dev website, something like that that's unfinished, that could be compromised, or just looking for sensitive things like VPNs, RDP gateways, stuff like that. Vulnerabilities is pretty self-explanatory. If there's a vulnerability there, obviously that's a problem. Looking at open ports and services on these systems as well to see, if maybe there isn't a specific vulnerability on one of these services, just having that service open to the internet is inherently risky, right? Like you wouldn't want a SQL database out there or an unmanaged RDP gateway. Yeah. So stuff like that. And also just looking at subdomains of those entities as well to see, a lot of times things get spun up and forgotten about again. You put in a top level domain, there may be 100 subdomains attached to that 10% of them you don't even realize are out there. And we found that quite a bit. Yeah.
We find that even working with businesses. So
absolutely.
it's unique in that. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very common. I mean, I would say that's probably, aside from like vulnerabilities on known infrastructure, the number one thing that gets people in trouble with their attack surface is things that were stood up for kind of a one-off use case or a limited time and then forgotten about and never taken down. So that's what we're trying to point out.
Awesome.
Nice.
And I think it's good to just point out, like preemptively, though I'm sure you'll have to clarify this, that all this information you're finding is publicly available. You're not getting any special permission or using unique tool sets to dig into anything that the broad internet audience doesn't have access to with the right tools, or going to a certain website that can just has the information. Showdown, that's the one.
Yeah, it's no different than that, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of collections out there that are already doing this. What we're doing is perfectly legal, in that we're not doing any kind of intrusive or destructive enumeration of these things. So the vulnerability scanning always gets questioned. And what we're doing with that is just looking at those open ports and services, getting headers and then fingerprinting what that technology is underneath of it, and then doing a lookup against known vuln databases on those specific software versions. So it's less intrusive than a Nessus scan, right? That's probably going to be more comprehensive, but we have to be careful to not, break any laws or accidentally tip something over or something like that.
Yeah. If you look at it from a non-technology, it would be like driving down the street and just saying, hey, did you know your door was open?
Yep.
You didn't close your garage door. There's no cars in it.
Yep, exactly. That's a great analogy. We're not opening to see if that door is locked or not. That would probably, that would be crossing a line. But we're just seeing that kind of cursory. Oh yeah, your door is open. That's vulnerable. You should know about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. What, I guess, in doing that work, I mean, obviously you do the R&D side of things with vulnerability management as being a big portion of that. I know you just were rolling that out, but What's the most surprising thing that you found overall, without giving away anything that, I don't want to take away the thunder from Hacks and Hops,
Yeah.
but, what are your big takeaways? What surprised you?
Yeah, so this one was very surprising to me. We started with, well, when Evan started it initially, it was with Minnesota, right? Home state, let's start there. And then kind of expanded out. And when we got to Kentucky, where I live, I was expecting it to be bad, 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 right? I mean, frankly, Kentucky's a poorer state. We don't have, great infrastructure for things like this. We have a lot of counties, that require a website for, DMV and things like that, and probably have like one or two people working in their technology department. What was surprising to me was that the more rural and kind of low population states actually did better because their fingerprint was smaller, right? Like they only have a one-page website saying, hey, welcome to Manchester, Kentucky, which is my hometown. And that's it. Like you still have to go to an office to do a thing.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And so the footprint was a lot smaller. And so therefore those states are doing a lot better. The more populated states are the ones that are actually, having a harder time, even though they may have larger resources. It's just the things they're serving is a lot larger. Yeah.
There's
That's
also
more
complex.
More complicated.
More things, move more things online, manage the bigger staffs and the larger populace, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that was surprising. I thought that the smaller, more rural areas would be doing worse and having a harder time. That it seems to be the inverse of that. And
that surprises me, but now that thinking about it, it does make a ton of sense, right? We've talked about complexity as the enemy of good security.
Yep.
So the more complex, the more likely you're going to be vulnerable.
Yep, absolutely. And so, we created this map, right, of every county in the United States and gave it pretty colors from very bright red, very poor, to bright green, you're doing great. And you can literally see it, just state by state and county by county. Like it's pretty amazing. Yeah. I'll give you a second answer on that too, which is that I was surprised at how many, local governments are still hosting their own infrastructure. So this is something else we looked at. Like, I assumed that at least 75% would have some sort of cloud hosting, infrastructure behind it. And therefore it's going to get the back end stuff's probably going to get patched pretty regularly. It seems like a lot of these local governments are still hosting their own systems and then sharing that infrastructure with other things like the city government and school districts maybe. And so you have a problem at the low level of hardware or the operating system that's running on. And now all of a sudden it's hosting 4 or 5 other sites that also have a problem. So it's a compounding issue. And that was surprising. I thought not everything, but I thought most things would be cloud hosted by this point. It doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially with the limited resources. Usually, it would seem it might make sense for them to move to the cloud where things are more resilient and you have kind of those cloud hosted resources to rely on, do some auto patching, but that might be also even lack of understanding of how it works and technology know-how to be like, well, this is what we have, so let's keep using it.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's, they already purchased the hardware. It's a sunk cost.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it till it's not in support, because otherwise, if you go to cloud, now you have a new cost that you didn't have before.
My feeling is that it's probably more of that it's a sunk cost in technology that, just isn't in the budget right now. And also, if we were to move to something, cloud infrastructure, that's going to be more cost, right? And more manpower to get that migrated over. And yeah, I think it's just not in the budget for a lot of these places, unfortunately.
And knowledge from the staff too, because now you're going to have to go from managing on-prem that they're used to learning the cloud.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and who knows, like, some of this stuff was stood up by someone 10, 15 years ago that isn't there anymore, right? And they're gone. And so that institutional knowledge isn't there either. I've definitely been in that situation before, getting brought in to manage something that, in previous jobs where I was like, I have no idea how this person did this. You have to figure it out.
Looking at it and go, why would you do that?
Yeah. I won't name names on this, but I worked for an organization at one point where we were managing a product that we no longer had source code to a large chunk of it. So
that's fun.
You have to get creative sometimes. Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. I hope you were able to move away from it before you left.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I think so. They're doing okay.
There's a reason he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah, they're doing okay.
That would be a good call too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had an opportunity to work with many the county or city governments, Seth, because I think that's kind of the other question is I know we had local breach here in Minnesota not that long ago, and kind of brings back the question too of how are other city counties dealing with these. It does seem like they are actively under attack. It doesn't even seem that way. It's a fact, and how they're dealing with it.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately right now it seems that for the most part in these, sections of critical infrastructure that it's very reactionary. So there's not a lot of proactive things happening that could lessen the impact, right, than dealing with a full-blown ransomware event or whatever the case may be. I think once you're in it, there's nothing really you can do other than follow your incident response protocols and, go through the proper channels of resolving the issue. Really though, I think we just have to be more proactive as a nation, as a country, not just public sector, but private sector too.
Yeah.
I was just looking, and from the start of 2018 through December of 24, 525 against government organizations.
Wow. Yeah.
So city, state, all that. They're saying roughly, here we go, an estimated 1.09 billion in downtime.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of time.
Yeah.
When I think with, I worked with the county for a little while, and I know one question that came up frequently is like, there's obviously some information that's public, and so it's not necessarily openly exposed to the public at all times, but if you make a request for that information, then they have an obligation to provide that information. So it maybe doesn't need as much protection as some information, but it's kind of just a different perspective there. And then kind of going back to the finances thing, that opportunity to be proactive on their controls. I think we've seen a couple examples recently of after you get breached, then you put the security control, the advanced threat detection tool in place. I know just on the and the amount of time and effort it takes and the expense. I guess the expense is there before or after, but you're going to be spending more when you're recovering. And there's that risk of the other data, the private data that your organization, your county, city might be holding. That's non-recoverable, and damaging to either your employees or I know they said not to use the word citizens, but yeah, residents.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying that when you're looking at breaches with critical infrastructure such as counties and cities, that sort of thing, the impact is huge, right? I mean, you're affecting the communities in which we live, and you think like, okay, the Social Security office gets compromised. Like, this affects all of us, like everyone living in America. And so, I don't think like the idea with what we're doing isn't to shame or anything like that, or, try to get on a high horse. It's really just to try to get the community involved and get awareness out there that, hey, we live in a society. We have government resources that we use regularly. What the government, the information they have is incredibly critical and sensitive. for, the residents in those areas. Let's make sure it's protected properly.
Yeah. So kind of spread the awareness, and then those residents can call for action from their counties and say, hey, this is a priority. What are you guys doing about it? And some might have good responses, and others probably haven't, barely looked at it, and they might not even fully understand the potential impact to them, because it's not even just the data that they hold, but they run 911 centers, they manage the water treatment plants, they have so many essential, like you said, infrastructure connections and access, that it can have a huge impact to that community.
Well, and the other thing that people tend to miss with that is they couldn't take payments for water, for ticketing, if they got tickets, for any of that stuff. The article I saw that was saying that average was about 19 days of downtime at a loss of $500,000 a day.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Over that 6-year window, which, I mean, and that's simply the lost revenue.
Yeah,
exactly.
I assume they might collect it at some point, but especially if they can't even provide the service, they won't. But
yeah, and I want to be clear about something too, kind of before we go on, as far as what we're doing with what it's called Project Broken Mirror. Right now, it's kind of just me and Evan doing this to raise awareness. This is a public service, right? We're doing this for free. We're mapping the attack surface of the United States out of our own pocket. And if you are a concerned citizen and would like to help, we're going to have signups for that at Hacks and Hops, and we'll be putting that on the website. And it doesn't have to be IT related, right? Like if you are just a school teacher and want to know how your school district is doing, let us know. We can check that out. And if you are someone who works directly for some of these public entities, get in contact with us, and we'll give you that information that we've gotten on your counties for free. Right? We'll hand it over. We're not publishing that broadly for security reasons. Obviously, that's high level. We'll say like, hey, here's some heat map stuff, but we're not like saying, here are the specific vulnerability. No, we're not doing that. But if you come to us and say, hey, I work for a county in Minnesota or wherever, and I could get this in the hands of some people that could affect change, let us know and we'll give you that information. So like I said, we're not making money off of this. This is a public service thing.
No, I like that. I mean, it obviously sister company, but Evan being the big part of that, it goes to the mission, right? Of fixing the broken industry, fixing things that are hurting the average person that has no say or doesn't understand what the risk is.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, we did put together a software set to do assessments like we've done on the counties. That is a paid service. You can get one free scan per year. But as far as the critical infrastructure stuff, that's totally free, and we're happy to hand that out.
And I can say, having done some of those, it is valuable information. It is very helpful. And I've had I had a nonprofit that had one of the worst that I had seen, and they were completely caught off guard. They had no idea.
Yeah. So, if you want a free scan, anybody can do this. It doesn't have to be critical infrastructure. If you're just a private organization and want to check out your company, you just put in your domain, run a scan. You can do that once a year. Scan your church, scan something that's meaningful to you. If you're not in a business and want to do it for your own, kind of awareness, do it for somebody else. That's fine too.
What's the web address they can go into that at?
So it's mirroreddefense.com. That's where you can do a scan and that one free scan a year. What we're working on is kind of the public services Project Broken Mirror.
So is there the where they can do one free scan and subscribe, that's Mirrored Defense, but then Broken Mirror, does it have its own URL people will be able to?
It will have one by the time of Hacks and Hops is around here. We've registered it. We're working on getting it all set up. So, in like 2 or 3 weeks time. Yeah. And that's where we'll have the sign up pages and that sort of thing too.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. And the version 1, I think, was mostly shared at like some conferences, maybe conversations Evan had.
Yeah. So Evan and I both have been doing talks and podcasts and stuff like this, just trying to get some grassroots involvement from the community and trying to get in front of people who work for some of these organizations and just raise the awareness. Yeah.
How's that going?
Great. Honestly, so I just did one here in Louisville back in June, and spoke to maybe 50 or 60 people in a auditorium classroom thing, and probably 10 people came up and asked to be involved after that. So it seems like the response is really good. Again, I think it kind of resonates because we're doing it for the right reason. This isn't some shameless money grab or extortion act. We're just trying to get people to understand that, we have some serious issues in our critical infrastructure, and let's try to get them fixed.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen, CISA's come out with, the warnings, and, we saw the, was it the pipeline? Was that last year, 2 years ago?
Yep.
Baltimore had one. There's been a list of hugely impactful breaches on things that, like I said, are critical for the day-to-day functioning of the constituents.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
It's not something that our leaders can afford to be oblivious to.
No, certainly not.
Yeah, the days of sticking your head in the sand and going, "Oh, I didn't know." Those are long gone.
Right.
Yeah, there's been too many really big incidents to say that's not going to work. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is right now, I think it's been mostly kind of ransomware gangs and one-off stuff. But, if there came a point that a state-sponsored actor wanted to do it, it would be a lot worse as well. And, the holes are there. We definitely need to plug them.
Yeah.
And, we say state-sponsored, but a lot of those ransomware is kind of under the table, Yeah,
they're at least turning a blind eye for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
But it could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I guess that's really cool. But how about, what are you working on from an R&D perspective here at FRSecure? What do you have going on and what's coming up?
Yeah. So you mentioned the vuln management stuff we've been working on. We rolled out a vuln management as a service offering. So similar to what we do with vCISO, if listeners are familiar with that. vCISO for vuln management specifically. So, a long time ago, I ran a vuln management program for a large organization. I had a team of like 4 people plus me. And that's all we did was patch vulnerabilities, come up with priority lists. The issue is a lot of organizations don't have the resources for a full team of people like that. And so we wanted to try to get that out there, to set up a program in, 2 or 3 years, get through the backlog, get you good priority lists, get you, the reporting you need to speak to boards and upper management. But really set the foundation so that after that 2 years, it's yours. You have a vuln management program now. You can run with it and take it away. We don't want to be we don't want you to be a client for 10 years. Like, the idea is to set you up on a good foundation, and then it's yours, and you can go forth and prosper. We're teaching people to fish.
That's awesome.
Yep. So that's been going well. I think the feedback on that's been really good. The other thing we're working on is, the last couple of years, I put together a talk on some advanced social engineering and phishing techniques. And what came from that was, we talked a lot about proxy phishing, right? If people aren't aware of what that is, I'll give a quick rundown. So, in the past, in a phishing social engineering campaign, you would send out a phishing email that you'd created and set up a fake login for once they click the link, and then you capture their creds, and then now you have their creds and you can do, whatever you can in that portal. Over the last 2 years, what we've seen, I mean, really, I guess the last 3 years, is the rise of proxy phishing, where you create the phishing email, you click a link, and what it does is send you to a server that's acting as a man in the middle. And so it's capturing that session in the middle, sending you on to the legitimate site, right? It's easier, frankly. You don't have to make a fake website anymore. It's sending you to Microsoft or wherever. Put in your credits, put in your MFA, and now you have that user's token. You've got the clear text username, password, and MFA token. But more powerfully, you have their session token that you can then put in your browser, and then you're them. And that session's usually good for a couple days. Mm-hmm. And so unless you catch it quick and kill all those sessions, they can go in, change password, change MFA, that sort of thing. So before, with classic phishing, the question was, what's the most powerful thing that we can do to combat this? The answer was MFA. So MFA is the baseline now. Everyone should have MFA enabled on everything. That is just standard security practice at this point. What we have to do now to combat proxy phishing and things like that is to set up conditional access policies. So we're working on, getting a review together for that to get out there and, help organizations set up their conditional access policies so that, your account is tied to one or two systems, your phone and a laptop, or, whatever the case may be. And so that if somebody grabs that information, they can't log in unless they have physical access to your device. So we're working on getting that out there. That's really powerful. And that came from that talk, it's something we've all thought about for a while, but it really underscored it because, I'd be giving this talk and people are like, well, what can I do? And I was like, well, really only this one thing, kind of like if you don't have good conditional access policy set up where they can't log in from another device, not a lot, unfortunately.
That's what I tell all my people, everyone I work with is like, set it up so that any new device connecting requires IT approval.
Yep.
You can do the existing ones, assuming you've verified that they are good. So you're not going to have to go and approve X number, all employee devices. But setting up some new connections require it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, it's incredibly powerful, and I mean, as rampant as phishing is, and in general, I mean, it's something that every organization should do. If you have, a certain level of Microsoft licenses, you can do this and effectively shut it down immediately.
So Seth, does that work too for the client user? Like, say you're a hospital and you need people to log in to pay their bill. Their personal, the patient's device isn't in your network. Does it work unique to that session token? Is that how that works? Is like you can't just copy the session token and access it from another computer? Is that what keeps it protected?
Yeah. So for an outside login like that, this probably wouldn't be applicable. This would be more for, members of an organization, like in that hospital, your workers there would probably need this conditional access. For the general user, we're kind of just stuck with MFA for now, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
MFA and doing your best to avoid clicking links when.
Yep.
And then, they're increasingly tricky because they can figure out and potentially figure out who you're, in that case, who you might be using as a hospital and sending you a fake bill statement that something like that says, hey, go pay your bill.
Yep, certainly.
Keep your phishing training going on too.
Yep. I'd probably get a text today about my Coinbase wallet that doesn't exist. So, that somebody's withdrawing money out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Do we have anything else, or we can?
No.
Good conversation. I forgot to start us with a hobby, but we can wrap up with gratitude. Brad, I can pick on you first. Anyone you want to thank today?
I'll give a shout out to marketing. They've helped coordinate. I've got 5 engagements in the next 2 weeks, basically, or next month, I guess, 3 weeks, something like that. So helping coordinate and handle a lot of the back and forth with the different conferences. So I'll give them a shout out.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You have a thanks ready, Seth?
Oh gosh. It's probably just because we were just talking about it with the conditional access stuff, but yeah, Brett Hammond and Jim Nelson here at FRSecure, they've helped me out a ton, just understanding, some of the the myriad of complexities of Microsoft licensing lately. So, but no, those guys have helped me out a ton, and really appreciate their help on what we're doing with this. So, yeah.
Awesome, thanks. I think I'll give a shout out to I'm kind of thinking of all of my leads, Brad included. We had some great meetings last week, but also want to give a shout out to Ryan, who's helping with some transition. And despite kind of the chaos that it's brought, he's always so good at taking it with a smile and just be like, yeah, we'll get through this. Appreciate his attitude and openness through that whole thing. And I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to giving Brad many more thanks for fixing the spreadsheet of complexity. That I just handed off yesterday or the day before. Yeah. So I can't wait for my complicated 10 minutes of pulling up multiple reports process to be simplified. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Do we know what's next on the calendar? I don't have it up in front of me, so maybe not. Just stay tuned. I know we will be having a few episodes coming from our Hacks and Hops event that's coming up on October 16th. So certainly if you're local and want to join us there for a conference of learning and hanging out with FRSecure folks and like-minded people, please do look into it. If you work with us, talk to your account manager, your key account manager, and hope to see you there. We might have one more episode prior to those. I don't recall, but it should be coming up soon. So we're looking forward to the event. Thank you again, Seth, for joining us. And thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.